Welcome to this week's episode of Talk of the Town. My name is Philip Swicegood, and I am back with my good friend and co-host, Dr. Kenneth Harper from Veins Specialist of the South. Now, if you have questions about your veins, maybe you saw a new vein pop up and you want some answers on it, give my friends at Veins Specialist of the South a call, and they'll get you the answers that you deserve. But also, there's a brand new way to do it. You can go to virtualvein.com. Again, virtualvein.com. Answer 6 easy questions, and Vein Specialist team of certified experts will be in touch with you to get the answers that you deserve. Now, Dr. Harper and I, we actually have some big news today. So Talk of the Town has really boomed. We've had a ton of new people tune into the show, but we've got a brand new sponsor, which is Piedmont Macon. Piedmont Macon provides comprehensive healthcare in Middle Georgia for all of your medical needs, but they're also just really good people, and they do great work in the community. Piedmont Macon, thanks so much for your support, for allowing this to happen. So, as you know, each and every week, we try to find you a guest that's doing important work in the community and that has a story that you need to know about. This week is no exception, as we are interviewing Susan Welch, who is the Executive Director of the Museum of Arts and Sciences. Susan, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us. Thanks for coming out
So, Susan...
to North Macon.
That's right, North Macon. So Susan, Dr. Harper and I, we're both from here in Middle Georgia. We love Middle Georgia, and I've almost spent my entire life here. I was actually born in Tennessee, go Vols, but I was born in Tennessee. My parents moved down when I was young, and so in elementary school, I came to the Museum of Arts and Science all the time on field trips, and I have a ton of great memories. For someone that hasn't been here, maybe in a while, or maybe even ever, what in your mind is so special about this place?
That's a big question, but an easy question. I mean, everything that we do, I think, is so special. And really, there aren't many cities that have an art museum that is also a science center, which is exactly what we have here. We're an art museum, a science center. We have a small zoo. We're situated on nearly 20 acres, really beautiful grounds for exploring, recreation, picnicking, things like that. So it's a little bit of everything, which doesn't make a lot of sense maybe to people from another city, but it's such a perfect fit for Macon.
You know, it's nestled right here in North Macon, on beautiful property, you're right. I like to tell the audience, our fans, a little bit about who in 1955, what group of people decided that they had a vision for this happening. Tell us a little bit about the history of the museum that people would like to know.
Yeah, the history of the museum is really wonderful. I think few people remember that the Museum of Arts and Sciences actually started in the middle of the 50s in the basement floor of the former Wesleyan College downtown on College Street, where our main post office is today. That was the original campus for Wesleyan College before they moved out to Forsyth Road. But so the museum started by civic leaders and educators in the middle of the 50s. They had a vision to provide an academic center of excellence, hands-on learning, something for all children, which was very progressive in the middle of the 50s. And so the museum was chartered in 1956 as the Macon Youth Museum, and there was the partnerships that the museum founded were really transformational. In fact, an early partnership that the museum founded was with the Junior League of Macon. They made a commitment to provide funding and volunteers. That was one early partnership that allowed the museum to hire staff, some teachers, a full-time director, and from there it just continued to grow. By the 60s, the museum had purchased this acreage here on Forsyth Road. In that time, you know, this was really the edge of town. It's a very dark sky, which is why it was such a valuable site for the museum. It's a high point of Macon and a really beautiful piece of land for a planetarium and an observatory. Those were the first buildings of the museum property. So
is that the planetarium that's outside the building, right?
Yeah, so the shell of that building remains the same as when we opened it in 1965, but we've renovated the interior, and of course it's a state-of-the-art planetarium. It's one of the best in the country, and we're really, really fortunate to have something like a planetarium in Macon, Georgia. Few cities have a planetarium, especially a technological asset like what we have here.
So, Susan, whenever I was walking in, I heard someone say Georgia is a pretty girl. And I thought, well, that sounds odd. And I looked up, and it's a parrot. And the parrot was saying, Georgia girl, Georgia's a pretty girl. And that kind of caught me off guard. But the parrot's beautiful. It's an absolutely gorgeous parrot. The lady said it was 18 years old right now. But what I was curious about is you guys have such an extensive collection of animals, and we're sitting here in this beautiful art collection right now. Talk to me
Yes.
about the funding that you guys have to make all of this possible.
Yes, that's a trick right there. We have three wonderful collections, so let's circle back around to that because people might not realize the collections that we do have here. We're an incredible repository for precious objects, and we have a living collection, which is our animals in the zoo. The Moluccan cockatoo named Georgia. You might be able to hear. It's funny because we're nestled in this little quiet corner of the gallery. It feels very art museum, but that's just not at all what we're about here. This is a very active place of learning, and everybody's trying to be real quiet for us right now, but typically you would hear, lots of laughing, lots of playing, lots of learning and enjoyment, and it's quite fueling. But funding is a big issue. We're a private 501c3 museum, private museum, and there's probably three different types of museums. A museum that would be owned by the state or a municipality, owned and operated by a state or city. That's a very popular type of museum across the country. Another type of museum would be a museum that operates under the umbrella of a university, an academic museum. And so both of those types of museums would have scholarship as their foremost priority, and often putting the object as the number one priority, serving as a repository like a library for objects, maybe for its city or state. And then there's a private 501c3 that generally is started by a philanthropist or a city group, or most of the successful private 501c3 museums that you know of or you enjoy going to are heavily endowed. And we are not heavily endowed, so we do rely on donors, and we have some really generous partners that make this all work. So it would, it would be very expensive to come to the museum if we did not have generous donors to help make it work.
Well, a place like this is important, for a city to have, and I think it's one of those distinguishing features of the Middle Georgia area. So I am curious, though, what artifact has really caught your eye recently?
Oh, I'm constantly falling in love with things. I mean, my passion is the art, particularly American contemporary art, and we're sitting actually. We're surrounded by some really great names right now: Lichtenstein, Hockney, Picasso, Moreau, Matisse. There's some really wonderful prints just on the walls of this
Do
one
these rotate through?
gallery.
Do you change out periodically, or how does that?
We do. We're really constantly changing the galleries. This is one of our gallery spaces. This exhibit is called Piranesi to Picasso, and it's just a celebration of noteworthy prints from the museum's permanent collection. And we just opened this exhibit, and we'll also publish a small catalog. That's what museum people call a book, but to feature some of the noteworthy prints in the museum's collection.
Now, if you look on the website about the museum, it says the museum is accredited. So, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And
It's
why does it matter?
It's very important. I think it's very important. We are nationally accredited by the American Alliance of Museums, and so that's it holds us to best practices. This museum was originally accredited in the 80s. And then we've been reaccredited twice since then. We're up for reaccreditation in a few years, maybe 2026. And but it's so we have earned the highest recognition in the industry, and it's best practices, not just fiscal management and operations and programs, but across the board. Really, it's the highest possible standard. for museum operations. So we're really proud of it, and it's not easy to achieve accreditation or to maintain accreditation. And so you might think, well, why is that even? Why does it matter if you have that an accredited museum in your city? But it is important because just from a programmatic standpoint, we're able to borrow things from other accredited institutions, which are generally larger than ours. And that's very important. So we are able to stage exhibitions like this using objects from our own collection, but generally we are hosting traveling exhibitions, or we're working in collaboration with other museums to create something that draws upon our collection and the collection of other institutions. So being able to borrow and bring really extraordinary works of art from other cities to Macon is very important. And that's just one example.
So if you didn't want to miss an exhibit, you have to come. How often do you have to show up out here to make sure you don't miss something?
I would say 3 or 4 times a year, once per
Okay.
quarter. If you really wanted,
But you can
to see
join,
and experience everything.
right?
Museum,
You get a pass.
yes. So it's a great bargain. It's a great value.
Right.
Museum membership, especially family membership, I think is maybe $75 unlimited membership.
Did you hear that?
Unlimited
How much was
A
it?
year.
$75
Your
for family.
family membership.
For family.
Love that.
And a lot of our families, they're up here every week because there's something fun to do, and that's how I raised my daughter too. Because I was up here every week.
Yeah, and with kids, you guys have a massive area downstairs that you can let the kids loose and look at all of that stuff.
There's really something for every age. One of the things that this museum does exceptionally well is providing an immersive experience, a really engaging experience. So here, this is maybe a static experience. There's some beautiful things hung on the wall, but throughout the museum, we really strive to use technology and other objects to create an immersive experience for visitors. If you think about the planetarium, that is a very immersive space. I mean, you're immersed in astronomy, the cosmos. It's the learning outcomes when you're in an immersive environment like that are very, very high. So that's one of the reasons that we do it. 50,000 students a year come to the museum.
50,000 students a year come here.
So we estimate that we serve more than 80,000 a year through on-site programs or outreach programs. We also have a full line of online e-learning resources, things like that. I have no way of calculating how we're serving with those, but just on-site and outreach programs, more than 80,000 a year, and a good percentage of those are students.
That's fantastic. So you've fascinated me with the animals that you guys have downstairs.
It's crazy. We have animals.
Can you run us through this list of animals that you guys have? Because to walk in and to see the parrot, I can't stress enough.
It's a
That's
Moluccan cockatoo.
Moluccan cockatoo. I'm sorry.
So we have nearly 200 animal species in the living collection.
Really?
And we have a living zoo area, so we've got lots of animals that are on display in the mini zoo, we call it. So visitors can just interact with those animals all day, any day. But a significant number of the animals are what I call back of house. They're used in live animal presentations, which we do several times a day, and those might be separate from the animals that are on display. But our curators are really passionate and brilliant, and they love to interact with the visitors of all ages. But live animal shows or presentations are a really important part of the museum experience. And one area that we've really expanded in the living collection is our rehabilitated raptor program. And so that's, there may be families that haven't heard or gotten word or interacted with some of our raptors, but we expanded the living collection probably 2007, 17, 18, right before pandemic. We built an amphitheater out back. There's about 6 acres behind the museum that we've developed fully for programming, a beautiful outdoor pavilion, a bat house, a raptor house, an amphitheater for fly-in. Of course, we use it for concerts and all kinds of fun stuff, but it was built for the purpose of fly-in raptor shows. But we have a wildlife curator who is completely focused on the rehabilitated raptors. And we have, I think, maybe nearly 10 in our program right now.
Can you explain what a fly-in raptor program is?
It's so a raptor is a bird of prey, and we have several here at the museum. That's, a hawk, a falcon, a vulture, an eagle. We don't currently have an eagle. We could have one. Lots of owls. There's 4 owls native to Georgia and the state of Georgia, and I think we have 3 of those 4 species here. In the state of Georgia, if a bird of prey is injured, generally the bird would be euthanized unless a rehabilitator can work with the bird and get it back to good health and release it back into the wild. But if that doesn't happen and the bird is determined to be non-releasable, then it can come here and live here at the museum. We have really wonderful, like 5-star facilities that are fairly new for us to house the rehabilitated non-releasable raptors. It's wonderful. So our curator takes a rehabilitated non-releasable wild owl or a bird of prey and readies it for educational programming and uses those birds in daily programming. It's exciting. If you've not been really close to an owl before, I mean, it's a majestic bird. It stops you.
So, Susan, we've got a question coming up on the Governor's Award of Excellence that you guys received. But first, a quick word from our sponsor.
I'm a certified health coach who loves helping others. My personal health journey started a little over a year ago. I began by walking, then I started playing pickleball. After losing over 100 pounds, my legs were still bothering me because of pain and bulging veins. I needed help, and all my friends recommended Vein Specialists of the South. I learned at my appointment that vein disease only gets worse without treatment and didn't realize how bad my vein problems were. But the VSS team was there to help and customized a treatment plan that fits my active lifestyle. Every staff member I met during my procedure was informative and caring. They even played my favorite music. My legs looked and felt better right after my procedure. Just a few weeks after my procedure, I was back on the courts doing what I love. If you want better looking and feeling legs, it's time to call the best, Vein Specialist of the South.
Piedmont Macon is proud to be your partner in healthcare, in business and in the community. From our 2 convenient hospitals and ERs, our cardiac program, women's services, and urgent care centers, we provide Middle Georgians with comprehensive care close to home. Our goal is to empower you through great care that's simplified, unified, and easier than ever to access. Our mission is to make a positive difference in every life we touch. We want to be part of your family and your life and to make our community a better place to live.
Susan, you've talked a lot about the other folks that work here, the curators, and tell us about the staff here and also about how important the volunteers are to the success of the museum.
Yeah, it's everything. We have a small staff, about 30 of us, half of that full-time, and but it's the volunteers are really, really important. And each year the museum engages 300 to 400 volunteers, which is youth volunteers that help us with Saturday crafts and activities, and in the mini zoo, all the way to retired scholars that help expand our programming and enrich some of the things that we're not able to do just with our staff alone. One really wonderful thing that our volunteers do every year for us is organize Festival of Trees. That's our annual fundraising event. It's pretty much a week long. We're in the fall season. You'll see our exhibition of professionally decorated trees, and it's really quite wonderful. We do that every year. This is our 37th Festival of Trees exhibit, so probably 50, 60 trees decorated by some interior decorators and artists, but also lots of community organizations get involved in doing that. We probably connect about 1,000 people to various aspects of the Festival of Trees events.
Now, if you have an organization wants to have an event out here, that's a possibility, or
Yes.
birthday parties and stuff like that, right?
Yes, that's one of the few ways the museum can earn income is through facility rentals, museum store sales, things like that. So, yeah, it's really important to consider.
It's a great place to have an event.
It's a great place to have an event.
Susan, Philip's talking about the Governor's Award of Excellence. Tell us about that award, and when did you receive it, and a little bit more about it.
Yeah, that was a wonderful honor, I think an important distinction. And really extraordinary that we recognize arts and arts educators and arts organizations in the state of Georgia in that way. But the museum was awarded with the Governor's Award of Excellence for Arts in December 2020. So while it's remarkable any year, for us it was really fabulous because it happened during pandemic. And so we were especially proud of that. And we, here at the museum, we have an expansive facility and space, so, lots of room to spread out. But we never closed. I mean, we closed to the public our interior spaces. Of course, we had to do that. But generally speaking, we never stopped our programs. We pushed everything you could think of outside. Our curators and staff members were so dedicated to serving and providing something meaningful for families. We were also just desperate, for meaningful, fun things to do. And I tell you, the museum was just very creative about how to deliver programs in very safe ways, but using campus and outdoor program areas, and it was really wonderful. So I think probably those decisions were made before a pandemic, but it hit us, right when we needed that wonderful uplift and recognition. And so that was the first time in the history of the museum that we'd been honored with that, and I think something really to be proud of.
So when you shared a little bit, we all know about STEM programs, but tell us what's different about the program here. And it's a different acronym too. So
yeah.
And your eyes lit up when you started telling us about that.
Well,
so I want to give you a
we
shot at
use
that.
the acronym of STEAM instead of STEM, and to me, it's a huge difference. It's all the difference in the world, and it's art infused into the STEM acronym of science, engineering, technology, math. For us, an art infused science curriculum is, that was the founding mission of the museum. And in that way, it's so forward thinking. That mission, our mission to evoke wonder, stimulate curiosity, instill a passion for lifelong learning. That's what I get to do every day. That's incredible. And we do that by celebrating the intersection of art and science. And as a mission in the middle of the 50s, for the middle of Georgia, it's just so more relevant today than it was then, I believe.
So give us an example of what that looks like.
So it's really important for the state of Georgia especially. Kids in Georgia are underperforming in science, in math, but science more than math. And a lot of kids in the state of Georgia don't have access to art. In the state of Georgia, public elementary schools, for example, it's not required, so it's not part of the curriculum, a formal visual arts program. from just a workforce development standpoint, these are really important things to be thinking about, because when students aren't exercising the right side of their brain, that's the creative side, then the learning on the left side, the more analytical learning is not where it should be. So in terms of thinking creatively through problems, research and development, all of the STEM industry that could be attracted to our business, I mean, certain things like this are really important. But making sure that students have creative problem solving and creative exercises that are worked into the science disciplines, it's really important. We're very intentional about it here. We use art to teach math and science, and we use math and science to create art. So we're especially interested in artists who are using math or science to inform or inspire their work, because we can pull out and develop so much science programming using that type of artwork.
Can you give us an example of what that looks like, of how how science does inspire art, like on a tangible level?
Well, the example that I love so much is pottery or ceramics, and we have a wonderful collection here of contemporary studio ceramics and folk pottery. But kaolin is such an incredible export mineral for the state of Georgia, and of course we use kaolin in anything shiny, basically. Papers and cables and paints and cosmetics, but it's also the mineral that we use for porcelain or clay, and one of the reasons that we have such rich deposits of clay in this part of the country, and so we also have a rich history of folk pottery in this part of the country. But using kaolin and just that mineral export is a really wonderful way for us to bridge geology with art, and so we do that an awful lot.
And I saw the pottery exhibit that is right across the hall from us there, and so people should definitely go check that out. Susan, it feels like we just sat down, but 30 minutes has already gone by, and we've got to wrap this up, unfortunately. Thanks so much for doing this. We had a great time. And thank you guys for tuning in as well. Stay tuned for where me and Dr. Harper will show up next. You never know where it might be.